later. All right. So, as being said in the introduction, my name is Eva, and I'm a voice coach. I'm a singer. I've studied many types of singing, both classical as pop, musical, folk, and country. Nowadays, I'm in a folk country music trio, as you can see on my little jacket. And that's actually what I love. What's singing from my heart is the folk country music style. And for my profession, I coach professional singers in the musical and pop industry, and also other music teachers, other singing teachers, but also public speakers. And today we're going to talk about how you can use your voice in a healthy way as a speaker, as a workshop leader, as a teacher. The things you do, it's always nice to have a little bit inside information on how the voice works and how you can prepare yourself for a good presentation. So I will share my slides for you. Let's see. Okay, so when we talk about voice, we can say a lot about it. But if we talk about the first impression we have about the voice, you can hear on a voice if it's like warm or bright or a little bit airy or maybe hoarse or a loud voice or a soft voice. And with in general in nonverbal communication, we scan a lot, like in like 15 milliseconds already we can already judge a person purely on the nonverbal communication. So, and that also counts for the voice. So as soon as you hear someone speak, you transfer the sound into something we call the psychology of voice, and then you judge a person, like if a person is a friendly person or an unfriendly person or a closed or an open person. And of course, a first impression is not everything, but it says a lot. So I want to start this workshop by doing a little exercise with you about your first vocal impression. And we're going to do that in breakout rooms. So in a minute, you're going to be divided in groups of 4. And I have a little exercise for you guys. And it goes a little bit like this. You are in a group of 4, so every person gets to speak for maximum 60 seconds. So don't take a lot of time because we just have a short session. And just share something about what is important to you, something personal, explain the subject. It doesn't really matter what you say, as long as you just talk around 30 to 60 seconds. The assignment for the listeners is, how does the speaker sound? So describe the sound. Is it a warm sound? Is it a bright sound? Is it an airy sound? So what is the thing you hear? And secondly, which impression do you get from the speaker? So based on the voice, what do you think the person is like? Is a friendly person, shy person, enthusiastic person? Just based on this first impression. You're going to get like 15 minutes, which sounds long, which isn't, because every time I do this exercise, I get back, it was too short, because people, of course, start sharing things, which is fine, but just make sure that everyone gets a short session that they speak and they get feedback from the rest of the group. So hopefully you got an idea of this exercise, and it gives you an idea how you come across to other people. So I'm going to move on to warming up. And this is something you can just do along with me. So when I do the exercises, you can just join the ride. Because whenever we talk about voice, it's also important to, well, not literally warm up your voice, because you're just as warm in your voice as everywhere else in your body. But the thing is, if we talk about warming up, we talk about a little bit of stretching here and there. So often where we tend to have a lot of tension is in the jaws. So you can just massage along my side with your knuckles like this, and massage your cheekbones like this. Good. And maybe you already know you have jaw tension. And if you have jaw tension, it has a direct influence on how flexible your voice sounds. So if you have a tendency to talk a little bit like this is talking with jaw tension. then it's a good idea to massage your cheeks like here, but also like where the joints come together. Often there's a lot of tension there, so try to massage that. And during this massage, you can make the following sounds, like as if you were chewing on something that you like this. So make exaggerating noises. Good. Work. So, and another part of the face is actually the tongue, and the tongue is a muscle. A muscle with a lot of muscle in it, and it's important to stretch your tongue before you start hosting a workshop or doing a long presentation. And you can do an exercise like this. It looks a little bit strange, but you put your tip of the tongue against your lower front teeth like this. And then you try to pull out your tongue without losing the tip. So it looks like this. Yeah, so try to pull out your tongue as far as you can, but without letting go. And now you're stretching the back of your tongue. Yes, you can also stretch your tongue way out your mouth, is also fine. But this is actually a nice picture moment, guys, Isabel. People sticking out their tongue. So if you lose your tension in the back of your tongue, then it's easier to articulate. So for example, if I have a lot of tongue tension, I have a tendency to talk like this, then I have a lot of tongue tension in the back of the tongue. So it's important to stretch the tongue there. Then, of course, the vocal cords. The vocal cords are in the larynx. Those are two like mucous membranes that vibrate together. And you can not actually feel your vocal cords itself, but you can feel the muscles around it. But it's important for the vocal cords to be able to stretch for high notes and to relax for low notes. So we always use the lip thrills to stretch the vocal cords. Sounds like this. You have to sound like a horse. So like this. Try that. And if you're able to do this, try to make like low notes gliding into a high note. So, and go low again. And again. Good. So you can do this a couple of times, but I'll explain a little bit further. It's important to stretch your vocal cords, but also to connect the vocal cords vibration to your breathing. And your breathing, you know everything about breathing. I can assume that by now. But the thing is, if you don't really connect to your breathing, to your support system, then you can feel a bit disconnected. So we always say like you have a tendency to have a talking head. So you don't talk with your whole body, but just with your head. So it's important to talk with your whole instrument. So from tip to toe. And in order to gain that, the lip thrills are also very helpful. Because if I don't connect with my breathing support system, then I have a tendency to go like this. So I cannot really get the lip thrill going. So as soon as I do, I connect with the voice and I connect with my breathing. So about the breathing, it's important to train an abdominal breathing. And I know this is probably a lot of repeat for a lot of speakers here, but just to make sure, what is abdominal breathing? That's the breathing where the diaphragm, which is here, I'll just turn my camera like this. Diaphragm is here. If I breathe in, the diaphragm is lowering, and that's the reason I have abdominal breathing here. So if I breathe, my belly goes outwards because of the pressure of the diaphragm that's lowering. And that's why we call it abdominal breathing, because the abdomen are going outwards when I breathe in. So just try this exercise with me. Put one hand on your belly button and make this sound. Try that with me. And then you feel that your abdominal region is going inwards while you make this sound. And as soon as you breathe in again, you let go of the abdominal muscles and your belly is going outwards again. This is what we call abdominal breathing versus high shoulder breathing. So if someone is tensed or is not really connected with the right kind of breathing, you have a tendency to breathe like this. So just for the feeling of it, you can try to feel that. If you breathe like this, it doesn't kill you though, but it's like not the most efficient way of breathing. So if you breathe high, that's what we don't prefer in using for a relaxed speaking voice. But if you breathe with abdominal breathing is what we prefer using. So to use your voice correctly in a relaxed way, we need that kind of breathing, but we also need support energy. And the people you can see on this picture are actually doing exercise for that. Now, we're not together at this moment, but we can actually do this exercise by ourselves. If you can find a wall in the room you are that's empty, you can actually do this exercise by pressing against the wall. So I want to invite you to do that at this moment, to find a wall and to stand like this against the wall or against each other if you're a duo. Yes. And the goal is not to be the strongest in this exercise. The goal is actually to find balance. So push a little bit against the wall. The wall will be giving you support because it's not going anywhere. If you have a duo partner, your duo partner can give the same amount of energy. And you probably feel this energy connected to your ribs on the side. So if you push a little bit, you feel pressure at the ribs. So if you push like this, let's say if your total strength is like 100%, give 50 maximum. Yeah. Yes, you guys see a couple of pictures that people are pushing a little bit too hard. So relax in the pushing and say like, what I'm about to tell you is very important. This sentence while pushing. What I'm about to tell you is very important. Say that out loud while you push. Yeah. And maybe you can recognize if you let go of the energy. So now let go of the hands, let go of the pressure, and say it again. What I'm about to tell you is very important. In some cases, you can feel the energy is also leaking from the voice. So if you push a little bit again, try again, and say it again. What I'm about to tell you is very important. You can actually hear that your voice gets clearer. This is what we mean with support energy. So it's not only being very relaxed and like breathing abdominal and like I have a relaxed voice. It's also about giving the right amount of energy. It's a balance in order to get your voice like across the room. Or maybe if you have like a big group of people, like 50 to 100 people, you don't have a microphone. It's important to use the right amount of support energy in order to get the voice across. So this has to do with projection, right? Okay, I actually in the end I have a Q&A. So if you have questions about these things, you can ask me at the end. So basically it comes down to this. We have to relax tension that we don't need. So tension in the jaw, tension in the tongue. We don't need that kind of tension to speak properly. Then we need to warm up the vocal cords by doing an exercise like the lip thrills, or you can also use like the resonance exercises. And we need the abdominal breathing in combination with support energy. Okay. I have a little video for you guys. It's like a few minutes long, and this is a TED speaker, as you can see. And actually, his subject is the subject we're going to talk about, meaning he's talking with a lot of dynamics in his speaking voice. And the exercise for you is during this video, you can write down what does he use in order to get the message across, voice-wise. So he's doing a lot, also non-verbally, but what does he do voice-wise that makes you listen in a different way to what he has to say, right? So get your pen or your laptop and you can write down while you're seeing the video.
Hear that? That's nothing. Which is what I, as a speaker at today's conference, have for you all. I have nothing. Nada. Zip. Zilch. Zippo. Nothing smart. Nothing inspirational. Nothing even remotely researched at all. I have absolutely nothing to say whatsoever. And yet, through my manner of speaking, I will make it seem like I do. Like what I am saying is brilliant. And maybe, just maybe, you will feel like you've learned something. Now, I'm going to get started with the opening. I'm going to make a lot of hand gestures. I'm going to do this with my right hand. I'm going to do this with my left. I'm going to adjust my glasses. And then I'm going to ask you all a question. By show of hands, how many of you all have been asked a question before? OK, great. I'm seeing some hands. And again, I have nothing here. Now, I'm going to react to that and act like I'm telling you a personal anecdote. Something to break the tension, something to endear myself a little bit, something kind of embarrassing. And you guys are going to make an awe sound. It's true. It really happened. And now I'm going to bring it to a broader point. I'm going to reel you back in. I'm going to make it intellectual. I'm going to bring it to this man right here. Now, what this man did was important, I'm sure. But I, for one, have no idea who he is. I simply Google image the word scientist. And now, you see, I'd like it to seem like I'm making points, building an argument, inspiring you to change your life, when in reality, this is just me buying time. Now, if you don't believe me, let's take a look at the numbers. This is a real thing that's happening right now. The number of talks that I'm giving is 1. Interesting facts imparted thus far in said talk, well, that's going to be a 0. My height in inches is 70.5. Note the 0.5 there. 2 times 6 equals 12. And then interestingly enough, 6 times 2 also equals 12. That's math. 352 is a 3-digit number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then almost immediately following that, we get 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, to add more filler here, I'm going to give you a couple more numbers to consider. 18, 237, 5,601, 2.6 million, 4, 24, staggering. These are real numbers, all of them. And to follow that up, let's take a look at some graphs. Now, if you take a look at this pie chart, what you're going to see is that the majority far exceeds the minority. Everybody see that? Cool, isn't it? And let's take a look at this bar graph, because it shows similarly irrelevant data. Now, I'm doing this because I'd like to make it seem like I've done my homework. If you were, say, watching this on YouTube with the sound off, you might think, huh, OK, this guy knows what he's talking about. But I don't. I'm floundering, panicking, I've got nothing. I'm a total and utter phony. But you know what? I was offered a TED Talk. And damn it, I'm going to see it through.
Okay. So this is, of course, a very funny TED Talk, but also I think the title was How to Sound Smart or something. So he's actually using a lot of dynamic choices, which make you feel that he knows what he's talking about. But of course, the whole essence is he's talking about nothing. I made a list of the dynamic choices you can make, and hopefully it's also what your list is saying. So the pitch on which you talk, like in general. So I'm not talking like melody, but just your general pitch is something that you can actually choose to apply. So for most guys, and now I'm generalizing, for most guys, it means that many guys have a low voice. And for most women, um, it means they have a higher voice. And this has purely to do with how we're built. So guys have longer vocal cords and women have shorter vocal cords. They're still like very tiny, but it is a difference. And that's also the reason that if you look at a guy, you can see the Adam's apple, because the larynx is bigger from a guy than from a woman. So pitch is already saying if you're a guy or woman. Yeah. But if you have a tendency as a man to speak very low, you can also choose to start a little bit higher in your voice to come across differently. Yeah. The other way around, also for women, if you have a tendency to speak like this all the time in this pitch, you can also choose to speak lower. Yeah, as I'm doing now. So pitch you can actually alter if you're aware of it. We're going to practice in a minute. Then volume. You could also hear that with the speaker of just before, he had like different kinds of volume, louder volume or softer volume. Melody. This has to do with the emphasis in high pitches and low pitches within a sentence. So within a sentence, I can go higher and I can go lower. Yeah, that's when we talk about melody or intonation. That's a little bit the same. Then we have a thing called onsets. And onsets is where you emphasize on a certain word. What I'm about to tell you. What I'm about to tell you, that's an onset. So I emphasize on a certain word. He did that a lot. Pace. Pace has to do with how fast you speak or how slow you speak. And then pauses. So the amount of moments that you're actually not saying anything. Yeah. So we're going to try this out. I'm going to give some examples and you're just in your safe little booth. So no one can hear you. You can practice. And the practice sentence is, what I'm about to tell you is very important. And we're going to start with volume. So for softer volume, in general, we say if you talk softer, you gain trust. Yeah, so this is the psychology behind it. Louder volume you can use for urgency. So if it's like in this sentence, for instance, for me, very urgent to come across, then I can use a louder volume. What I'm about to tell you is very important. I use a louder volume to get people to listen to me, which doesn't really necessarily mean that if I speak loud all the time that people actually listen. It's about the variation. So sometimes if you have a loud voice by nature, it's actually a good strategy to sometimes talk softer, right? So try this out in your softest volume, but that another person can still hear you. What I'm about to tell you is very important. Try it out. What I'm about to tell you is very important. And now louder volume. What I'm about to tell you is very important. And notice the support while you speak louder. So if you speak louder, in most cases, people feel more support energy from their body in order to be louder. Yeah, so use that. If you don't use your support correctly, you have a tendency to shout. So if I give an example for shouting, what I'm about to tell you is very important, I'm shouting. So I'm not using my support energy. What I'm about to tell you is very important. So I'm using this in my mind, this exercise we just did, in order to get the right balance. Pitch. Like I said, lower pitch and higher pitch. In general, we say, if you speak in a lower pitch, you create more authority. Yeah. So imagine the high-pitched woman voice. So, do you want to get some coffee for me? It doesn't really come across as a person with a lot of authority. So if I speak lower and I say, "Do you want to get some coffee for me?" It gets me more in my authority, because it's uh, unconsciously we think of lower voices as more strength, more powerful. Higher pitch is not a bad thing, don't get me wrong, especially for people who speak low all the time. It's sometimes a good thing to do to create a higher pitch, because you come across more. Um, uh, it creates sympathy. I don't know the other verbal word. So it creates more sympathy if you go a little bit higher in your pitch. So maybe the male voices here recognize this. Melody. Like a music piece, you want to listen for melody, because otherwise it's boring. So what is not using melody? We call that monotone. So if I speak in the same pitch all the time and I don't use any melody in my voice, it actually starts to get a little bit boring, because I don't vary. But if I use a lot of melody, then actually I can divide the important words from the less important words, right? So you emphasize on certain words or parts of the sentence in order to get the message across. Sorry, let's try that. I forgot to practice it with you. So what I'm about to tell you is very important. Melody-wise, try this. What I'm about to tell you is very important. So try to, in a high pitch, what I'm about to tell you is very important. Or start low. What I'm about to tell you is very important. Yeah? What I'm about to tell you is very important. Good. Onsets. This is an interesting one, because if you change the onset, you change the focus of the sentence. Try this. On the word what, we try the onset. What I'm about to tell you is very important. Try that. What I'm about to tell you is very important. Now change the onset to the word I. What I'm about to tell you is very important. What I'm about to tell you is very important. Now change it to tell you. What I'm about to tell you is very important. You hear what's happening? What I'm about to tell you is very important. Or, on very important, what I'm about to tell you is very important. What I'm about to tell you is very important. So it's fun to try this out, because if you have like a long workshop or a long lecture, you can understand that people are not like totally 100% hooked on every word you're saying. So for you as a speaker, it's helpful to emphasize on the words that people need to remember. Pace. Vary pace to keep the attention of your audience. There's no rule in like you have to speak slower or faster. We have fast speakers, we have slow speakers. It's all good, but it's good to be aware of it. So if you are in general a little bit more of an enthusiastic type, like high energy, and you often have like a fast speaking pace, versus a quiet person, or maybe a more introvert person or a more relaxed person has often more slower speaking pace. So it's important for both parties to vary. And in general, we say, if you have something important to explain, go a little bit slower in pace. And if you're talking about an anecdote, like a funny story, you can speed up. And the last one, pauses. creates structure and peace in your story. This is a very important one. If you remember one thing of today, I would say that pauses is the most important one. Because if you share knowledge, it's important for people to digest what you were just saying. Right? So the pauses is actually mainly for your audience and for you to take a breath. Also nice to do. Right? So these are in general the main dynamic choices we can make. And of course, I have an exercise for you guys again, because it's the most fun to work with this. Again, you can share your story. So the content of the story is not my main goal here with this workshop, but just something you can just share easily. But this time with the emphasis on one dynamic choice. So from the list we just did, what was the most important thing for you? What do you think you can gain the most from? Think about that for a couple of seconds before we start the breakout room, and try to focus just on that one dynamic choice. Don't use 3 because you're not able to focus that fast on new things. So just one dynamic choice. And the assignment for the listeners is, which part of the story sticks? Give each other feedback. So now it's nice to give each other feedback on like, what you just did with your voice over there, that made me listen even more. Or make me curious about the rest of the story. So try to give feedback why the voice is helping or not helping. Right? Okay, you get 20 minutes for this one. A little bit longer than before. Actually, a little bit more longer because it was shorter. So now you get 20 minutes. So now it's 5:05. So 25, we get you back. See you in a minute.
Okay, everyone is back, I guess.
Everybody's back. Yes. Okay, obviously we don't have like time to evaluate every person here. But maybe it's fun if someone wants to share something about this session or what they experienced, or something that was funny, or you want to share with me, or you have a question about this. How can we do that? Maybe a hand or... Unmuted. Okay, I'm back. So, Simon raised hands. Thank you, Simon. Maybe you can unmute yourself.
Yes, I think I'm unmuted. Yes. So my question is, if I speak too long, I think I tense up, and then I and drink, and yeah. What's my problem? What am I doing wrong?
Yes, this is very fast analysis. If I listen to the quality of your voice, I hear a little bit held back quality, meaning it sounds a little bit like you know what if you have like a trumpet, you have like this a damper on the trumpet. I can hear that a little bit in your voice. Do you recognize that?
Yeah, I think when I speak and I want to be authoritative, I press too much.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm thinking 2 things. One, on a technical level, you can try to be a little bit sharper in your speaking voice, which is, as an exercise, sounds very weird to do, but it's an exercise, so beware. So sound a little bit more like Texas American, like this. Yeah, can you try to copy me like this?
Yes, sure. I can speak like this. Maybe I'm doing it wrong, but yeah, I think I'm getting the point.
Good work. Great. So this is a technique we call twang.
Yeah. I heard of twang.
Yeah, heard before. Yeah, and twang actually creates 10 to 15 decibel more volume without pressure. So this is of course something you have to exercise. And what I also can see is that these massage exercises I gave in the beginning, you can loosen up a little bit more in the jaw. So
Okay.
do this daily
Yeah.
and try to speak a little bit like you're coming from America, and try that every day, just as an exercise. And as soon as you speak for a group, try to add a little bit of twang. So
Okay.
the goal is never to talk like a twangy duck in in essence, but the exercise sounds like that.
Okay.
Yeah, does it help?
Yeah, that does help. As long
Okay,
as I don't need to do any funny redneck dance while speaking.
no, you don't need to. And there's another thing you can Google. I can put it in the chat, and that's interesting for many people. It's called Luxvox. If you Google that, it's like shortly you have like a bottle with a tube in it, and you bubble, you blow in the tube, and then you create bubbles, and it relaxes the muscles in the throat. This is a very short explanation, but if you Google it, you find a lot of YouTube videos explaining it. And I think that will help you too, in order to relax the muscles around the vocal cords.
Thank
Good?
you. Yeah. Thank you. Will
Great
do.
question. Thank you. So I can see, if I say good correctly, Zilvinas.
Yeah, hello.
Hi.
You said correct. Yeah, it's not a question. I just wanted to kind of mention one thing that it's very nice to see when someone's open up emotionally when they talk and they can actually show it. Like for me myself, I've not tried too many like vocal coaches, except last half a year I've been working with one. But before then, I kind of always had a bit naturally how to open up and didn't even need to learn too much. But when I started getting deeper into it, like it allows you to change your pitch a lot. And I've seen a lot of, I've seen affection of it in the seminars. I've seen affection of it on the people that I talk to. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
Thanks.
great. So actually, if I repeat what you were just saying, that the emotional opening up also creates more flexibility in the voice.
It kind of makes it alive, if it makes any
I
sense.
totally agree. I totally agree. Yes, this was actually something I did not really mention in the dynamic subject. The thing is that all these dynamic choices are exercises. But the thing that gets the message across is emotional transfer. So in Dutch we say, ik hoor het aan je stem. And in English is translated, I could hear it on your voice. I don't know if it's an expression. But it says everything. So if you talk to someone on the phone, you can actually hear if someone is sad or happy or another emotion. So the voice expresses your emotion directly. And so if you want to like inform or inspire or get people to do things, the emotional part of the voice is the thing that triggers people. And it's exactly like you say, the emotion is the most important thing. And if you are then able to express your voice in a way that's actually helpful for your message, then you have the best of both worlds. So, but thank you for your comment. Great.
Thanks.
Yeah. Do I say tune?
Yep. Hello.
Hello.
So the second breakout room was pretty interesting that we chose one dynamic to work on, but I was thinking if I were to have a 2-hour speech in front of a bunch of people, should I be scripting the entire thing to say, oh, this is more important, I have to do my little tweaks here and there, or that one's more fun, I have to go more high pitch? Is that recommended? And second point, I noticed about 1 hour into talking, saliva is pulled up around the sides of my lips. I'm thinking, oh, am I drooling or something? So is that something, I don't know, do we worry about the way I speak, the way it all like sprays or something?
Good questions. The first one.
Yeah.
I would say everything that you practice for a presentation, mainly we focus on the content of a presentation, right? So what are the things I'm going to say? So that's like the text, the lyrics, the content you want to share. But often people forget to train the performance. What I mean with training the performance is that you are aware of how you speak while you do it out loud. So often we train it like in our head. So we write it down and then we train it in our head, but we often forget to train it out loud. Yeah, right? So it's important as soon as your text is done, that you are practicing it out loud, like in the living room, under the shower, in the car, like in every different kind of situations, to practice it and using the dynamics. Using the dynamics is always a natural thing. So it's not like a script and you say, I'm moving up with my voice on that word and I'm moving down on that word, because that's too brainy, right? So, but you do have to train it as an exercise. So what you could do, for instance, you have like the first 10 sentences of your speech or your presentation, and you practice it with a lot of expression, a lot of voice expression. So your voice actually knows, oh, I can go up, I can go down, I can go slower, faster, all these things. But as soon as you are in front of the audience, you connect to the emotion. You don't connect to, I'm starting in a high pitch. That's not what you connect to, because then, then it's a voice exercise, and people are not really interested in a voice exercise. So that was the first. Does it answer your question a little bit?
Yeah, I think just to get a sense of that range first, so that when the time comes to use it, it should flow out more naturally. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, this is actually, if I say it shortly, muscle memory. So as same as singing, if I practice my singing, I practice it so that I know I can trust my voice. And when I'm on stage, I don't think about how to pitch the high note. I just do it, right? Because of the practicing. The second question about the saliva. Could be many things. I mean, it's not a problem or anything, but it could be that you are maybe a fast speaker and you tend to forget to take breaks. Could that be?
Yeah, I notice I don't really pause that much for effect or anything, so that could be one.
Yeah, and I would say try to focus on taking more pauses. And pauses, you're also allowed to take a sip of water, right? And that's
Right.
that's like the natural. If you have a long presentation, you can also own the stage in that sense. Like if you need water, you just get it. So you just, maybe it's about loosening up in front of the audience. Like, okay, I just need this, or yeah. So I would say it's dry mouth, what you're talking about.
Okay. Yeah, I'll work around with that. Thank you.
Good. Christopher?
Hi, thank you. First of all, please excuse my voice. Very ironically, I trained in martial arts and I got kneed in the Adam's apple the night before this voice course.
Oh.
So never happened to me in 15 years but I woke up all swollen. So it was interesting to do these exercises with a little extra resistance. I don't have control over pitch right now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I'm still getting a lot out of it. And my question is, let me see how I wrote it here. So as you learn these things, these little techniques about how to start, how to control your pitch, do you suggest people take their general presentation and write these things into it, and then later just, I imagine you have to let it go more naturally, right? It can't be formulaic, but do you sit there and say, okay, here's my workshop, for example, and maybe make a mark in the first sentence of your intro. Oh, I want to have this sort of voice here and I want to pause here. Do you suggest that, or do you just let it flow?
I would say on the dynamic choice of breaks, pauses, you can do that. because this is also a very general comment, but most people are getting nervous in the beginning and they're always faster than they practice it. So I would say if you script a little bit the beginning, and like whenever you have a break or pause, you put like a little V, like, okay, take a pause there, take a pause there, and practice it. It's important to practice it because otherwise it will never flow naturally, right? So like I just said before, like the same as studying your text, you can study the pauses with them, including the pauses, right? So it's not only memorizing, it's also like, okay, knowing to take a break. But I would definitely not suggest to script your whole text, because you will never be focused on the right way, on the right content, if you're only focused on the dynamics, right? So when you're aware of it, for instance, like what happens with most people, if they've been talking like for an hour, that the voice gets a little bit more dull, like less energetic or less dynamic. You can already like visualize that moment before you start the presentation. So like, okay, after an hour, maybe the group and I need an energizer, so I get myself energized again. So usually if the voice knows all these dynamic choices, so I would definitely suggest to practice everything, then it's a matter of energy, right? Because then it's built in the muscle memory. So practice period is something else than performance moment. Does it answer your question a little bit?
100%, yeah.
Okay.
And what might we look for if we wanted to find a voice coach? Would we look for maybe, would you suggest looking at public speaking or voice specifically, or what's like the keyword to start finding someone to link up with?
Yeah, I say voice coach, vocal coach. I would maybe say public speaking coach, voice, like someone who's actually also aware of the fact that you are a public speaker. Because of course you have a lot of speech therapists, which is something else. That's like people who are looking at the voice, I would say more on an organic level. Like if you have like a lot of hoarseness, or like in your case, when you got hit by someone on your larynx, and it continues to hurt, then I would definitely suggest to see a throat doctor or a speech therapist, which is something else, and a vocal coach. A vocal coach is training you in these matters I was just talking about. But I would definitely link it to public speaking.
Yep.
Yeah, right? Good.
Thank you.
Ota?
Yeah, hi. I
Hi.
probably don't have a question, it's probably more comment, and this is about connection with the audience, right? Because you can really train the presentation, but I found that it's important to connect with the audience, because sometimes even if you train the script and the audience changes, you also need to change yourself, right? So how it is about the flexibility with your script and this reacting on the audience.
Definitely agree on that. And this is what we call, is also, you can look at it as a technique, it's called, we would call mirroring. So what I always suggest, like to scan your audience a little bit, like if it's a very serious audience, it's sometimes better to start a little bit more serious yourself too. And if you have like a little bit of a loosey, like laughing audience, then it's important to go with the flow in that sense. Because if you are, I don't know what the English expression is, but if you color against right from the start, you get people to not be open for your message. So I definitely agree with that comment.
Yeah, because in our case, our audience is usually small, like between 10, 15 people. So you can really have individual approach and you can really see how they react. So it's not, they are hidden in the big crowd. So yeah, good.
No, exactly. Yeah, thank you for that. So I don't see any more raised hands. Maybe I can see something in the chat. Oh, thank you. Great. So yes, and I think we're also, yes, I think this is perfect timing, right? This was the deal. So if there is no questions left, I say thank you, and hopefully you can work with this a little bit. And
can I ask you one last?
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite speakers
Favorite speakers?
besides Wim Hof?
Besides who? Sorry.
Besides Wim Hof.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, this is a little bit obvious, common, but Obama, I think, is a very good speaker and also good trained speaker. I would say I have like a complete list of great speakers. I like Elizabeth Gilbert as a speaker, the writer of that famous movie. How does it go? She wrote Big Magic and the film Eat, Love, Pray. That's her book. So I would say if you want to like be inspired by great speakers, I would definitely suggest TED to just be inspired by the speeches that are held there. My personal talking about voice, of course, I like Morgan Freeman, but I just love his voice. I mean, who doesn't? It's like very warm, great voice. In general, I like the voices that are clear and warm at the same time. So they have like this technique that is like a clear, bright voice, but also it has warmth. That's my personal favorites. But nice question, thank you. Did Victor and Esther want to ask something?
Yes, I would like to ask you one thing.
Yeah.
When I do courses, they are sometimes quite long, up to 8 hours, and I feel very tired the next day because I put loads of energy into the talk. And I would like to ask you if there is any trick how to hold back, because usually I'm very enthusiastic and I spend really loads of energy. I don't have time to eat and really I'm tired afterwards. So if there is any trick how to do it with the same results, but less tired.
Yeah, you're kind of answering the question yourself a little bit. Like, I don't have time to eat. I'm like, what? We have to eat? Well, I'm just joking. So talking 8 hours a day, that's often the case with you.
Yeah, 6 hours is a normal course for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and
usually
like,
there's a 1 hour break in the middle for lunch.
Yeah. I would say, but this is just a general thing. Maybe you should investigate. Like, is it really necessary to talk that much, or is it a habit?
Okay, it's a good point.
Because six hours of talking is long. I mean, I can understand like 6 hours.
The whole course is for 6 hours, so there's definitely the ice bath and so on. But at the beginning, there's some theory that's at least for 3 hours. Then is the practice, breathing. I'm quiet, and then at the end is questions and answers, and that's up to the people. It can be between 30 minutes and 2 hours. So
yeah, exactly. Because if I listen just to your natural speaking voice like this, it sounds healthy. It sounds good. It sounds projected. So it's not like, I don't hear like a problem in your voice. Is this also the voice you use in front of an audience, or are you louder?
No, it's exactly the same.
Okay. I would then suggest the same thing I suggested before. Try this Lux-Fox method. Because what it does actually, it's connecting your voice to your lungs and your diaphragm. Like, it's like the system of how the breathing works. It's like a free tool. So it's actually doing it for you. And the reason I say, because this sounds like you are giving top performances, like the same as people who are working in a musical every day. They have to sing every night. So if that's the case with you, that you speak a lot, I would say the same rules count. You have to warm up and cool down. And the Lux Fox will help you with that. So that's my suggestion for now.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Yes.
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Esther?
Okay. Yeah, I've got a bit of a hoarse voice because besides a Wim Hof method instructor, I'm also a ski instructor. And this morning I was teaching next to the lift hut that made a lot of noise. And that made me think about the workshop I've got coming up in October at a festival for Wim Hof. Mm-hmm. And I'm just wondering, how do you deal with loud environments and applying these methods?
Yeah, without a microphone. Probably.
Ah.
Yeah, sorry, is it without a microphone or not?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. The thing is, if you are speaking for groups without a microphone and there's a lot of background noise, in a way you have to change the way you pronounce. Maybe I can give an example. What will be a typical sentence that you use? Could be anything.
Like in the Wim Hof methods?
In the group, like what is a typical thing what would you say to the group? Like pay attention, everyone, something like that. Pay attention, everyone.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Okay, you wouldn't say that. Okay.
Breathe, motherfuckers.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like the situation you were just talking about. You were teaching.
I was teaching skiing this morning.
Yeah. What do you teach? What do you say?
Well, I start off, welcome to my lesson. Welcome to the mountain.
Yeah.
What are your names? What brought you here? Do you do any other sports? You know, that sort of
great.
Feel, and then the conversation gets going, and then you take it from there and play into what they need.
Exactly. Great. So what you already have naturally is what we call the twang, the thing I just explained. You have that. So you have like, I'm just trying to copy you a little bit. I'm always exaggerating, so this is not you, but it's a little bit like this. You have this. But the thing is, if you are with a bigger group, you have to open up the vowels a little bit more. So I'm just going to do an example. So I'm going to move away a little bit from the microphone. So if I say like, okay, welcome everybody to this class. Hopefully you had a great day yesterday, something like that. So instead of like keeping my mouth a little bit closed, I open up the mouth more, and it's more like a shouty character. So welcome everybody. You can see what I'm doing. I'm talking in this mouth space like that. So, and this is maybe too funny to practice now, but practice it before the mirror. You have to, in your energy, you have to start off in the shouty character without, and I don't mean shouting your voice, but like in an open shouty character. If you don't do that and you press your volume in the speaking voice you normally use, then you actually acoustically don't get what you want. So if there's a lot of background noise, you're actually trying to project through that background noise with the wrong instrument. Let's put it that way. So in a way, you have to change your instrument to a more open instrument. Hey, you, more like this.
Yeah.
Yeah? You can imagine yourself doing it?
I can't do it now because it's 2 o'clock in the morning and I've got
yeah.
I don't want to wake up, but yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's okay. Yeah. You don't need to try it out, but try it out when you feel safe and you can actually do it. But it's that attitude, and from that position, you start speaking.
Thank you.
Great, good question. Okay, everybody happy? I think we should close it. Sweet.
Yes.
Yes.
It was very nice. Thank you, Eva.
Thank you, Eva.
You're
Very
welcome.
valuable again. So yeah, I hope to see you next time for
Yes.
another session with another subject. But
Great.
very valuable. Thank
Yes,
you.
Yeah.
thank you.
Give her a hand, people.
Yay.
Yay! Applaus for yourself.
I will cut down the video without our chatting in between, and I'll send it to you guys.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
Very
Let's
important.
do that.
Very
Yeah,
important.
yeah,
Most of the
yeah.
important thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Have a great evening.
Right on.
Thank you, Eva.
See you later.
Ciao.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Eva.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.